in the beginning of the chapter, we talked about standard form, and you can write a polynomial in standard form when you have the exponents going from greatest to smallest, but you can also write it in what's called factored form. And that's when you're showing the product of the factors, kind of like the opposite of what we did yesterday or in the previous lesson. We were taking our polynomials and we were multiplying them. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at them like they're unmultiplied. And the unmultiplied way is called factored form. There's this really cool property that says that when one side of an equation is in factored form and the other side is 0, then we can use this cool property called the zero product property. I know that sounds super thrilling. We can use that to solve the equation. The solutions of the polynomial equation are also called roots. They're called zeros. They're also called solutions. Now, if you look down in the example right down here, this should make sense to you, because if you have two numbers and you're multiplying them, right? A times B equals 0, then obviously one or both have to be 0. So it sounds like, duh, obviously one of them is 0, but it makes it really easy for you to find the roots, the zeros, or the solutions when you have this property. So we're going to try for the remainder of this chapter to always look for the zero product property. Well, not always, but most of the time we're going to look for the zero product property to solve. So in example 1a, I've got this equation, 2x times x minus 4 equals 0. So what we know is either this piece, 2x equals 0, I'm going to break it up by the factors, or x minus 4 equals 0. Because if 2x times x minus 4 is 0, then either 2x is 0 or x minus 4 is 0. So my two possible values of x are, if it's coming from here, then x is 0, and it's coming from here, x is 4. And then you say, well, how did you know that, Miss Lean? And I just did the subtraction in my head. I know 4 minus 4 is 0, so that gives me an x value of 4. So we can do it with example B as well. If x minus 3 times x minus 9 equals 0, then either x minus 3 is 0 or x minus 9 is 0. One of these two parentheses pieces has to be equal to 0. So what I like to do is I just kind of draw a line down the factors, and I'll say either x minus 3 equals 0 or x minus 9 equals 0. Now, if you can't do it in your head, you should be able to, but if you can't do it in your head, you just kind of solve the silly one-step equation, and you get one value of x could be 3, or one value of x is 9. So these are the two possible answers for x. All right, let's look down in example 2. We do the same thing, only our binomials are a little more advanced. So either 2x plus 7 equals 0 or 2x minus 7 equals 0. So you solve the simple equation. You get x equals negative 7 halves. You can write negative 3.5. It doesn't matter. And then for this one, we're going to add 7. 2x equals 7. So x equals positive 7 halves. So sometimes it's the same number, but one is positive, one is negative. Just watch your signs. Now for this one, you have two x minus 1s. So in theory, you could write it as x minus 1 times x minus 1. But nobody does that. Right? Like, that's a thing. That's what this is saying. But you don't have to solve it twice. You just say it once, and then up here it tells you it's called a repeated root, where you have the same number. So the only answer is 1 because they have the same answer. You could also have 3 terms, right? I mean, like, it's all the same. So we're just going to do it 3 times, so we get x plus 1 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. So if the first one is the x, then the x is negative 1. You could have the x being 3 or 2. So I'm just solving these silly one-step equations to get the values of x, and any of these values, when you plug them into the equation, will make it equal 0. Now, whoop-de-doo, right? It's in factored form, we can get the values of x, but most polynomials are written in standard form, as I told you. So what we're going to do for the next couple of lessons is learn how to take our polynomials from standard form and turn them into factored form. Exciting times. So what we're going to do first is we're going to factor the polynomial or write it as a product of other polynomials. What we're essentially doing is the reverse distributive property. So we're going to look for the greatest common factor. That's the first thing you always look for. That's the easiest way to factor. And the GCF is going to be a monomial that divides into each of the terms. So here's how you figure out what is the monomial for the GCF. So you look at this example 3, and it says to factor out the greatest common monomial factor from this expression right here. So the way that you do that is you look for 2 things. You look for the GCF of the numbers, and then you look for the GCF of the variables. So if I do GCF of the numbers, I have 4 and 24. So you have to go back to, 4th grade, and think about greatest common factors. And the greatest common factor of 4 and 24 is 4, because 4 goes into 4, and it also goes into 24. So the GCF is going to have a 4 in it. Now I look at the variables. This has 4 x's. This has 3 x's. Here's my tip for you that you should write down. The GCF of the variables is always the lowest exponent. So this has 4 x's, this has 3 x's, which means that they both have at least 3 x's. This has some to spare, this doesn't. So the GCF is going to have x to the 3rd. So now that I've identified what the greatest common factor monomial is, now I'm going to divide to pull it out. So I'm going to do the reverse distributive. So I'm going to divide by 4x to the 3rd each of the pieces. Now you go back to when we learned how to divide with exponents. This first part, 4 divided by 4 is 1, and then x to the 4th over x to the 3rd. Remember, you subtract the exponents, so you get x to the 1st. I'm just going to write x plus 24 divided by 4 is 6, and then when you divide x to the 3rd by x to the 3rd, they just cancel each other out. So I'm going to put this in parentheses, and I'm going to write 4x to the 3rd out front. You'll know that you've done it right if the piece in the parentheses has nothing in common. So I just have an x and a 6. So they're definitely very different. And if you wanted to check yourself, you could do the distributive property and see if you end up with the original question. So let's put this all together. We're going to solve the equation, and the way that you solve it is you find the values of x. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to first factor. So I'm going to find the GCF of the numbers, which in this case is 2 and 8. So the GCF is 2 for the numbers. And for the variables, this has x squared. This has x to the 1st. So that means my GCF is the lowest exponent, so it's just going to be 2x. So I'm going to divide each piece by 2x. So that gives me 2x times x plus 4 equals 0. If it's in factored form and it equals 0, then either 2x equals 0 or x plus 4 equals 0. So my values of x are either 0, because 2 times 0 is 0, right? Divide by 2. Or x could be negative 4. All right, when you look at letter B, it looks different than letter A because it doesn't equal 0. I told you in the beginning of this lesson that you can only use this technique if it equals 0. So what we have to do first is we have to bring this 15n over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 15n just to bring it over to the left. So I get 6n squared minus 15n equals 0. You can't use this method if it doesn't equal 0. That's the whole idea behind the zero product property. Now I'm going to do the GCF. So the GCF of the numbers 6 and 15 is 3. Don't worry about the negative. And then the GCF of the variables is just n. So divide everything by 3n. And I'll get 2n minus 5. And now I can find my two values of n. Because one will be if 3n equals 0, and the other will be if 2n minus 5 equals 0. So divide by 3, n is 0, add 5, divide by 2, n equals 2.5. So those are the two values of n, 0 and 2.5. All right, last one, then we're going to wrap this lesson up. You can model the arch of a fireplace using this crazy equation, where x and y are measured in inches. The x-axis represents the floor. Find the width of the arch of the floor. So what they want us to do is they want us to find this point right here and this point. You probably can't really see that. I don't know if you can. I'm looking for these two spots where it crosses on the x-axis. So if I can find those two values of x, then I can find the width of the floor, right? How far apart they are. Well, it gives me this little hint that at floor level, y equals 0. So really what they're asking is 0 equals negative 1/9 times x plus 18, x minus 18. What are the values of x? So negative 1/9 is just a constant, so it doesn't involve with my breaking things apart. I'm just going to have x plus 18 equals 0 and x minus 18 equals 0. So obviously my two values of x are negative 18 and positive 18. So this one's 18, this is negative 18. The question is that I need the width. So from negative 18 to 18, the distance is 36 inches. All right, that was definitely an application of the skill. We're going to practice more of this in class, and if you have any questions, write them down.